I couldn't trust myself and I couldn't trust them in a way. And so it was just like a constant battle. Because then eventually it's just like you come to a standstill on the project. We're like, wait, I just need help on this. Every set we would go on, it's just like we were just bickering because we didn't talk beforehand. And then when we were on set, it was like, yo, can you just do that? He's like, no, why would I do that? I'm like you trust me, it's right here. The more you feel like you have to like prove yourself, I feel like it's the opposite of collaboration, right? It's like the whole scarcity mindset. Like I gotta keep this tight. I'm gonna show and prove myself or whatever. The opposite of that is like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's work on this together. And you're like, cool. Let's figure this out together because everyone wins at that point. Scaling your business can be very difficult as a filmmaker, but it's 100% more difficult when you don't do this one thing. And so today we're talking about the skill that you are probably overlooking that's holding you back from making more money, making more relationships, and getting to that next level in filmmaking. And today we're going to talk about what the skill is, how we actually diagnose it, and what it looks like in terms of like how it bothers your business and how it breaks it down. And so we're going to talk about this in detail. Today we're back with Juanjo as always, and myself, Jason from Tenfold Production. And this is the Unfold podcast, where we break down the concepts of filmmaking and how to get to that next level, how to scale up your company and your business, and how to get a sustainable filmmaking business. So let's dive right into it.
Let's get right into it.
Cool. I'm going to tell you guys a story that haunts me to this day and why it's so important and how it's shaped our entire business to this day.
Okay.
And so years ago, when I first started working with Justin, Zach, Adrian, it was just the four of us. And all of us coming from a single place of being solo videographers, we all kind of pulled our own, old bad habits over. And sometimes I would forget that we were a team. And oftentimes in the beginning, I was kind of like the pseudo executive producer. I was doing a lot of the outreach and conversations, setting up projects and doing all that. And oftentimes I would land the project and say it was 3 weeks from now where we had to actually shoot the project.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I would keep and internalize all this stuff myself and not tell them that we had a project coming up because I wanted to make sure that, like, I don't know, there was something inside of me of just like, let me see how much I can do and like really get going before I even bring it to these guys. It's almost like I was trying to prove myself. Like I was trying to prove that I was like a good leader, or
like to yourself or to the other people?
To both, right? Like I felt like I had this internal urge to be like, damn, if I can't even do these small things, like what am I doing? Like I'm kind of useless.
Yeah.
And then what would happen every single time, and they will attest to this every single time, a week before the shoot, I would be like, hey guys, are you free on this Thursday? And they're like, yeah. Why? They're like, well, we have a big shoot coming up and it's coming up on Thursday. And they would be like, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's just figure this out now. And this has happened over and over and over again. And clearly you can tell from any person's perspective how annoying that can be. Or like, even like, not even as annoying, but like, there's so much pressure to just throw on someone in 4 days to get this job done.
Yeah.
And I never really figured out what that stuff was or why this was happening all the time. But like I said, it was just like I couldn't get over it. Like, it was like I used to do everything by myself. And so I almost felt like I didn't need to ask for help. And so it all leads me to this very important point. And ultimately, it all kind of hit this very big moment where I had brought people on for a shoot and I had both not told the crew what was going on and the team, but I also didn't tell the client as much as I thought I had to tell them. And so the second we got on set, it was just confusion for everyone.
Yeah.
They're like, so what's the idea? Like, why are we here? And then it all fell back to me to be like, it's up here. Like, you guys just gotta trust me.
Yeah.
And the problem with that, as you guys can all tell, it's like when you don't have really good, transparency across the board, no one can trust you. No one knows what's going on. And then you can't really build real relationships that way, because ultimately you can only handle that so many times before someone's like, I don't want to work with you. This is the worst way to approach a project. And it ultimately leads to this biggest point that I'm going to talk about. It is the one thing that is actually holding most videographers, most filmmakers back from scaling their business. And that's communication.
Mm.
And it might sound so kind of like large and fluffy of like, oh yeah, of course communication is important. It's like, no. This is such an important part, and it leaks into every single part of the business. And we're going to talk about that today, and some of the places where you might actually fall for these traps naturally and realize like, oh, so that's actually one of the things. So like that's the whole goal, right? We're gonna try to find these little aha moments for you
Yeah.
where you listen to it and you're like, I am doing that right now, and that is actually making me less money. It's making me not a viable partner to work with other people. And you start to realize like, oh, maybe it wasn't all these other people. Maybe it was me in the way I was communicating.
Yeah.
And so let's dive into it.
Yeah, let's dive into that because that's interesting. Why did you feel so scared to bring up these projects? Like, what do you think was really holding you back from? Because you said you landed them weeks ahead, and
Yeah.
obviously, if you know like 3 weeks ahead of time, then you have 3 weeks to prepare, do the pre-production, all
Yeah.
of that good stuff. Were you trying to do it all yourself? Did you think you could do it all yourself? Like, what was really holding you back from getting other people's help here?
I think if I think deeply on it, it was almost like I didn't feel like the jobs were worthwhile.
Okay.
And weirdly enough, it was like, oh man, they're probably gonna think this is such a waste of time. So like maybe I'm just gonna figure it all out by myself first, and then I'll just make it as easy as possible for them,
Mm.
right? So like let me just deal with the production and producing and like all these little things, and then it just snowballs to a point where because it happens every project. It wasn't like we were doing the smallest type of projects. It required like at the minimum 4 of us. And the problem was because I was just nervous. I was like, oh, they're gonna hate this project, but then they have to do it regardless anyways now, and it always became a thing where like, why am I not just telling them so much earlier? And so as much as it is, I think it's a combination of that,
Yeah.
like a bit of fear, a bit of like a guilt, I guess sometimes too. It's like, back to me being the whole EP. It's like, oh man, this is like the best I can get them, and they're not even gonna want to do it. And then when I tell them, like, this is my whole thing of like, when you are a filmmaker or you're like a creative, you spiral so hard.
Mm.
Like even if it's a single thought decision, it's not just like, oh yeah, it's a yes or no. It's like, man, so if that happens, that happens. They're gonna not like me, and then I'm gonna not have partners anymore, and then I'm not gonna do any projects,
Yeah.
right? And it's maybe that's not every single person, but when it feels like your life is on the line, everything you do, and it's like, oh man, this one's not really making money. I don't know if they're gonna want to do this one either. It's like, this is the whole point of like ensuring alignment with an entire team, especially your partners, because it's like, hey, we all signed up for this, and it's okay if this is the type of project that we're getting right now, because we all have a future goal and vision to do bigger things. And so it's always, again, my point of like, because I never communicated this stuff to them, and even that feeling, right? Like, guys, what do you expect from me? What do I expect from you guys? Where are we trying to go with this? Where's like our overall end goal vision for the business? Like, is this all stuff that like was communicated beforehand? And if not, it just puts up a lot of like barriers against other people, right? Because it's so easy to jump into partnerships because there's like, everyone paints this really beautiful world of a partnership, right? It's like, oh, of course, that just means we could do 2 times as much. We can make millions of dollars. We can do all these types of things. But then you forget that there's like the real life of like what the jobs will look like. What does bad times look like? What do good times look like?
Yeah.
What happens if this happens? What if you aren't available for 4 months? What if I have to do an emergency? You know what I mean? Like all these little things stack up. And so when you have not just the work that exists in front of you, but the pressures of like making sure people feel a certain way, right? Because I always say when you're in a partnership, like the work is quite easy. You now actually have way more resources, way more hands, all these different things. But it is managing people and their emotions and their relationships, and like ensuring that like you balance out what you say. Like you say what you're gonna do, and you hopefully like it works out in that sense,
Yeah.
right? And so it's always like, hey, no one's gonna feel bad, hopefully, if I give you the entire understanding of like where we're actually at.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
like expectations and everything.
I just want to catch on to something that you said because, yeah, the other 3 guys are your partners that you founded Tenfold with, right? And they're very talented guys with different skill sets. And it's interesting because it sounds like the way you were handling these projects, you would go into them wearing all the hats at once, right? Because you're trying to do pretty much everything for them. And I'm assuming at this point you're like producing, but also like EPing at the same time because you're communicating with the client.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you're trying to, think of all the ideas as the director, but also, trying to figure out like where you're going to get all the gear from, how you're going to light this, and kind of doing like the DP's role as well. So you're like wearing all of these hats at once. And obviously, if you do that, the entire production suffers.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey guys, if you're finding this conversation useful, you should check out our client brief checklist over on Set Memory, which is our whole library of filmmaking assets that we've built over the years. So check it out. It's free. Let's dive right back into it.
My question for you is like you're trying to wear all these hats at once and you're obviously getting overwhelmed and you're doing way too much. Is there a specific example you remember from a time where that might have really, really came back to bite you?
Yeah, there's a lot of points. Like we've talked about this Olympic spec project that we tried to do before,
Yeah.
where, you know, I relied so heavily on people to trust me, but then that trust had been broken because I just didn't really figure out. I didn't put the time and energy meant to actually care for the project.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had spent so much time trying to get the project off the floor that by the second it had to start getting into more of the pre-production and actual ideations and all that stuff, I kind of just skipped over it.
Yeah.
And whenever people would ask me stuff too, it was like, hey, like anything I can work off of or anything? It's like, oh, no, you just trust me. Or it was like, hey, no, I got it. Like, it'll be easy. Like, I'm almost just downplaying it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is, obviously, no one has anything idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
And then you show up on set, and like even thinking back a little bit more now, when it's like in that process of becoming solo videographers and then moving into more of like a team setting, it's like I think I hadn't figured out how to trust people yet. And that was the biggest thing. It was almost like I couldn't trust myself and I couldn't trust them in a way. And so it was just like a constant battle. Because then eventually it's just like you come to a standstill on the project where you're like, wait, I just need help on this. Like I need help on the camera side of things. Like I don't know anything about the camera. And again, it was just like this weird proving moment where like a lot of people are going to have to deal with this, where you get into a place where you have to start working with people and you're like putting up a fake kind of like, I know what I'm doing. Because then you don't want this other person to think lesser of you. And so this is getting quite deep on this call.
It's
this
important.
pod. But yeah, it's really about understanding that.
Yeah.
Because like the further you don't trust other people and you think you're the best and you think you can handle all this stuff, like the further away you are actually from becoming the best. Because there's no way you're going to know every single part of a production. And back then too, it's like I had 3 extremely capable filmmakers and friends that were trying to help me, and I just didn't give them the chance for it. And this is the same thing that we talked about before a long time ago on like the first time I colored that project, and it took me 2 months to do it. Same idea. It was just like I gotta carry my weight somewhere. And to me it was through coloring, but I was actually letting the whole team down because I just couldn't give the trust. Like I couldn't just let go of it. And so there's a lot of times when you guys start to work with new people, build teams, whatever that might be, it is letting your guard down, being much more open to communication, to be openly saying, I do not know what I'm doing here, or I need a lot of help here. Can you help me out? And sometimes I forget like the act of asking someone for help is actually kind of like invigorating for both sides.
Yeah.
Because the person that's struggling to ask, first of all, you're already struggling. But for this other person who's like, oh, I didn't know you were struggling with this thing, but I really want to help now. Like it actually puts a different type of dynamic going forward. So, like once you kind of get over that hump and you stick to it, not just a one time, right? The fact that I kept falling back into that trap of not telling the guys like, hey, we have a shoot going on.
Yeah.
It really shows up very much down the line where it's like, hey, wait, maybe you're not the guy to be setting up and starting these projects, or like being the setter or the sale. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's change things up. Because like, what is it that is keeping you down? I think everyone has a very specific sweet spot in what works best for them. So for me, it's like, sales and big vision and stuff like that. But, someone might not want to deal with like finances, or someone might not want to deal with like gear. Like when I think about gear or producing, it's like just right over my head. right? And it puts me in a bad spot mentally because I'm like, that is not what I really want to deal with.
Yeah.
When I used to have to like, I love the whole sales process. Like, oh, I can get this person to buy this project and I can sell them this, and this. And then the second they sign it, I'm like, I don't care about this anymore.
Yeah. Now what?
Yeah, now I didn't really want to deal with this. And I used to do a bunch of where like I would sell a project to my standard. I'm like, oh yeah, we could do this. We can sell all these things. And I'd be like, yo, Justin, here you go. And he's like, wait, what just happened?
Yeah.
How did you just give me the directing job when you sold it on your ideas that are unique to you? And so now it's almost this extra step of me having to tell Justin like, oh wait, so this is what I sold. This is what I said. And then can you like replicate that? But it's not how directing works.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
It's your ideas.
it's my ideas. Yeah. And it's always been the problem. Like why, that's just not how this delegation should be working. If you're just selling, you just stick to selling, but don't sell the idea yet without the person that's leading the project.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, these are little things I can really dive deeper into now. All the other places where communication is super key in terms of how it's going to make you money, how it's going to scale you up more, and ultimately how to make your life a lot easier. Because the further you get away from communication, the further you're going to be able to like land any jobs.
Yeah. That's a good point. So when you did figure all of this out and you did this diagnostics on your problems,
Yeah.
how did you make that change and how did that benefit you long term?
Yeah. The first place it really showed up in being better was that I can communicate when the projects weren't right for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so already I was like, hey guys, I don't like, it's a little bit out of my scope. I don't really resonate with it. And just being able to say stuff like that is really helpful because it gives everyone else context.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, wait, I actually want to do this one then, or, trade off or whatever. When it comes to actually being able to talk to clients as well, right? Being able to communicate like your vision and ideas. It's just more practice, right? Like a director's treatment and a pitch that you do is always going to perform better when you have a real connection to the project. But if I'm trying to force myself into every project just because, then is it really the best way to go about your business in this case, right? Can I find a different director? Can I find someone that, hey, it's a soccer project. Do I really care about soccer? Would I just bring you on? You know what I mean? And again, a lot of this stuff obviously happens through like a bit of ego and like you're always trying to figure stuff out. And this might be a little bit more advanced because it's more on the production company side. But even as like a solo director, it's like everything you do through the entire process is a process of communication. Like people think it's just like, oh, I'm going to sit here and be super creative and all this stuff. It's like half your time is spent on calls and selling the idea and being able to sell this vision to your team now to actually have them on board. Do they understand what you're trying to get at? Do they understand the shot selections? Like, do they understand what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
Like if you can't communicate to your DPs of like what you're trying to get at, then you're just going to get two different looks and different styles. And then you're like, wait, we didn't mesh here. Why is it looking like this? And then it just obviously funnels down to like a very hostile environment. And this is even stuff that happened to us early on, like me and Zach, when we were first trying to like figure things out, we were fighting on every set. People don't even know this, which is fun.
You should tell this story.
Yeah. Every set we would go on, it's just like we were just bickering because we didn't talk beforehand. And then when we were on set, it was like, yo, can you just do that? He's like, no, why would I do that? I'm like you trust me, it's right here. And even though this is me past that stage of it, it's like every time we would go on a set, it was just the same thing. We both had both of our ideas and we didn't sit down long enough we didn't even do shot listing back then, right? Because we had no systems. We were straight up winging every set.
Yeah.
And because of that, we didn't have like pre-communication. We didn't do location scouts. We didn't do any of this stuff. We were almost like fighting our own battles, right? It really did feel like individuals coming onto a set and trying to figure stuff out at the same time. And because we're all naturally very different people, you're going to get a different approach, different like mindsets, different like, no, I'm sticking with this. Let's do this. But then secretly in the back, I'm just like, I don't want that shot. I'm not even going to let it like get onto the edit. Then you're really just battling.
Yeah. Wasting time.
It's a wasting time. And so it just goes to show like as much as this, again, you're like, oh, it's just, we're talking about communication. It's like a lot of people, especially the students that we talk to and we teach, is like a lot of the things that you ever have a question about can be done through communication, right? It's like you struggle with figuring out what the client really wants. It's like just ask them more questions, right? You don't know what gear you have to ask or get. Will your producer get that for you? Like these are questions you're asking yourself, but you should just be asking them.
Mm-hmm.
And then even like, okay, what do I expect boundaries wise, or like what do I expect out of someone? You can't assume someone just automatically knows, right? We talk about this all the time with like editors. A lot of people, their first hire is an editor, and then they just give them the footage. They're like, figure it out. And then they get the edit back and they're like, this is the worst edit ever. Like how is this not exactly what you have in my brain?
It's like, how are you an editor? You're
Exactly. You start saying stuff like that. Like this, how are you an editor? I can't believe you've been getting jobs and stuff like that, which is super harsh. I don't say that stuff.
That's terrible.
That's terrible. Never say that stuff. But my point is being like, people start to spin wheels, right? Because you're like, wow, so like this guy's so bad. And then you just assume like that's what editors are like. They're bad. That's why I'm never going to work with an editor again. And then you didn't give them anything to work off of. And then you expect the world from them. And so you got to think of it from the flip side. Like say you're a director and someone just says like, give me a Nike commercial. And you're like, what
does that even mean?
It's like, that's it? You're going to give me $100,000, $200, like $1 million, and I'm going to go to shoot a commercial. I go and shoot the craziest Nike commercial. And I'm just like, is this what you want? And they're like, no, you're like the worst director ever.
Yeah. I need my $1 million back.
Yeah, give me $1 million back. And you're like,
oh God.
Well, first of all, you didn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
There was no brief. There was no information on the tone, what the campaign was. So you're just making a random campaign. And this is exactly how people feel.
Yeah.
Right. When you're on the other side of things and, you know, people aren't giving you information. And I see this all the time when it's about landing clients. This is why people don't scale. It's because they put out a quote because some client came up to them and was like, hey, can you give me a quote for this? And they quote for $4,000. And then they burns you out because you have no money to scale your business. You have no money to hire people on. It is your full-time job now for $4K to get that one project done for the whole month. And you're like, you know what? If you had just talk to them more, ask more questions, potentially you could have made more money just by asking more. You could have avoided all this extra mess. You would have known exactly what you're trying to shoot. And then more importantly, whether or not the project's even worthwhile to take on. Because so many people just say, I need the money, which I totally get when you're in like a tough position. But even when you're in a tough position, you need to ask the right questions. You need to communicate where you see flags and where you have holes and openings where you're like, doesn't really make sense. And that's such a common thing, right? Like a client will say, you know, can you guys make us a quote for this? And then you ask them maybe 4 questions. And you're like, okay, I think they gave me enough information. But then really deep down, there's like 30 questions left. And you know what I mean? Like you've probably done this before. You're like, oh, okay, I think that makes sense. Let me just quote off of this kind of wishy-washy answers that you have. And then suddenly the scope creep comes in, and then all you get is like, whoa, what the heck? Why did you add that? Well, we would have talked about this earlier if you asked me about it.
You never asked?
You never asked. Yeah. And oftentimes people just get scared to ask, and it just trickles down, and suddenly you're like, I'm stuck in another terrible job. And people just do that over and over again, right? And so that's all it is. Like the amount of times I was scared to ask that second round of questions because I thought they were going to think I was stupid. You know what I mean? It's like, wait, why didn't you understand exactly what I was thinking about from this 2 lines of questions, 2 lines of answers that I gave you? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to give you whatever I think makes sense now. But like from the client perspective, people actually prefer you ask more questions. Because then it means you care. And it means there's like deeper things that you're trying to figure out. Yeah. And so, you know, this is a long-winded way of saying, ask more questions.
Yeah, there's always like a million questions you need to ask.
Yeah.
Because you don't know anything about.
Yeah, they only told you about this job 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
How are you
saying yes?
I got it all. I know exactly what you want.
They're probably like, what?
Yeah. It does look bad when you're like,
yeah, exactly.
What the heck? How did you even give me a quote so quick? It means you don't care, or
it means you have no idea.
Yeah. And so you always have to play the role of an expert, and you always got to learn how to ask the right questions,
Mm.
even when you bring on new people, right? Like you can't scale into new work because you're not efficient with working with an editor,
Yeah.
a huge crutch for people. And then you're like, okay, well, I don't need an editor. I'm just going to keep doing it myself. Okay, well, 4 years later, you're still editing yourself, and you're like, you could have learned this skill 4 years ago
Yeah.
if you just had gone through the steps and like communicated a little bit more and tried. Because every first edit is always going to be bad. That's like almost a given, because you have to have that second round of revisions to talk to them to be like, hey, I think we're pretty close, or can we just change this? I think I'm trying to lean a little bit more closer. And so this always comes back to the idea of like extreme ownership. It's like everything you do is a choice. And if your choice leads down to the wrong path, it means that you made a wrong decision somewhere. I can't make a choice and be like, all right, we're going to edit this, and then it comes back bad. I'm like, well, 100% is your fault. There's nothing I did that was wrong. Like you never learn anything from that point.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people use that as like a safety guard, or, with anything. It's like if something's going wrong, you just got to look back and be like, where's the actual problem here? Did I not do a good enough job? Did I not set you up for success? Because even for us too, like when we're trying to figure stuff out, it's like maybe it's me that I just didn't set you up for success, or like we have to figure out a different system to get there. And then it's like, how do we function that? But then it's also at the same time, it's like, we got to look at it from every perspective. It's like, what do you need from me? What do I need from you? And then how do we have these conversations to find the middle ground? And then suddenly you find this like great middle ground that you can start to scale up on,
Yeah.
and everyone wins.
Yeah. I think that is a good point. I think lots of people often and maybe don't realize that they're bad communicators. And you might be you might be a good communicator on a certain point, maybe with like your friends, your family, your relationship with your
Yeah.
partner, whatever it is. But in this industry, it's very different. Oftentimes because I think everyone has a big ego.
I was literally just going to say,
Yeah.
it's an ego thing.
So based off that, for the people who might not have taken the time to sit down and really think about it for themselves, what do you think are some like clear tells that you need to start focusing on working on your communication skills?
Yeah. When there's like confusion on set,
Yeah.
that's probably like number one. When people are stressed, when you are dropping the ball in terms of like going overtime, or there's like bickering or all these little things, it's usually just a communication problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like you didn't spend enough time talking about the stuff beforehand, so now it's showing up when the pressure is here. Another thing too is like when no one really understands what you're trying to say,
Yeah.
right? Like you're like, it's up here. It's like, no, everything, especially for filmmaking, should be laid out completely,
Mm-hmm.
so everyone can see your thought process from top to bottom. And this is not only just a small thing, but down the line, it's your ability to talk about your vision and sell certain projects, is when you have full clarity, and the client has full clarity. And so there's no disconnect between like what's in your brain and like what you're getting. Because a lot of times, even in the past, it's like I sold them on this one thing, and I would make mental changes to change the entire project,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would get the project and be like,
Where did this come from?
what is this? And they're like, what? And I'm like, the further you get away from that, and like if that happens a lot to you guys, all right, it's like what you sold is very different from what you are creating. It's also a problem with communication too, because it's either you're communicating wrong with the client, or you're just like not being honest about like where the project should be. Because you're like you're it's like a switch and it's like a bait type of thing, It's like, here's what I'm selling you, I'm just gonna do whatever I want.
Mm.
And like that's just not how you scale a business, because these people are gonna come back to you. It's like, wait, I hired him to do this one thing for me, he didn't give it to me, and so why would I ever come back to this person?
Yeah.
And so even a lot of people have to battle this whole like this artist versus like being the person that's providing this service, right? It's like, oh, why don't they want my version of this? Ultimately, when a client hires you, you are paid by them to get them what they need. And so that's the line of communication there. Like, you signed up to do what they need. But when you come back and you're like, I'm not going to do it, then you can just already tell. Like, I'm sure all of us feel it right now. It's like, ew, like you said you promised this thing, and I'm not even going to get it.
Yeah.
And so no one likes working with that person.
That is really why you should ask a lot of questions in that
Yeah.
meeting. Figure out what they want.
You can catch like red flags, yellow flags, all these things in the first chat to figure out like, do they have a big ego? Like, are they gonna let us do what we need to do? Like you kind of have to have standards for yourselves. But I think you said it perfectly. Of like, it's always an ego thing, because the 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 more you feel like you have to like prove yourself, I feel like it's the opposite of collaboration, right? It's like the whole scarcity mindset. Like I gotta keep this tight. I'm gonna show and prove myself or whatever. The opposite of that is like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Let's work on this together. And you're like, cool. Let's figure this out together, because everyone wins at that point.
Yeah.
And so every time every time I see this pop up, it almost just means like, can you just ask more questions? Can you just tell people what you're thinking? Like, if anyone's ever been in a fight with like their partner, this is gonna be fun. It's like you're battling in your own head, they're battling in their own head, and then if there's no communication, it's like there goes your spiral, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, and then you have 2 seconds of communication, and you're like, oh wait, yeah, so we're on the same page. We're just whatever. We're just coming at it from a different place. And that's the same thing with like filmmaking too. It's like, oh wait, we all have the same like approach here, but then I don't know where you're coming from, and you don't know where I'm coming from. And the more we don't talk, it's just like, you kind of just go further and further away. So yeah, as much as this is like a very long-winded way to say like talk to people more, it's actually very hard to put into action, because I think a lot of times it's the fear of looking stupid. And when you like, this is why I kind of moved away from EP work a little bit, executive producing, because Adrian has no fear of asking exactly what it is we need to get the exact right answers, or to get to like remove any type of like fear. This is why we created the checklist, right? For like the client brief checklist, because at bare minimum, you need to ask the right questions to know whether or not you can quote properly. You can check that stuff out in the description below, y'all. But ultimately, if you set yourself up for failure in the beginning, there's no coming back, because you're just doing yourself a disservice every single time. All right, gang. Like anything in life, you just gotta communicate. And so drop the word communicate in the description. I love that you guys are messaging us now. You're hitting up Wanjo, hitting up me, IG, whatever it is. We love it. We love communicating. We love to know what you guys are up to, what problems you're dealing with. This is such a minuscule like concept here that I thought was important to bring up, because much like anything in life, whether it's yourself, your partners, your work partners, like communication just is the game, right? And so you can just end up spiraling and being such like a negative Nancy in your head. Like you can tell how old I am, hella unk. But then if you just don't talk about it to anyone, man, you're just doing that forever.
It's very toxic. It makes your brain a toxic little cesspool.
Yeah, it's already hard. Like filmmaking is already hard enough.
Yeah,
and then when you make it harder on yourself because you're just so in your head, I know it. Trust me. Like I've talked to so many different like creatives, and all it takes is one good conversation to be like, oh wait, that wasn't that bad. Like that was just me overplaying this like crazy. Yeah. Maybe that's just like a human thing, right? We're all just like a little bit of an overthinker. But especially as a creative, like I feel like there's like a slightly different creative pressure that's involved. That's like, man, if you can't even do this, you're not even good.
Good old ego.
Good old ego. So drop the word communicate. We appreciate you all for joining us.
And don't forget to check out our other channel, Tenfold Production, where we post all of our great projects, great works, and all of the BTS behind it and how we do it. So check that out as well, Tenfold Production.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Peace.